What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall market approaching tomorrow as we have CPI data coming out, which will cause a very, very big move. I'm going to break down what the numbers are suggesting for CPI as well, what you should be watching for as time progresses, looking at the charts and such. Before I break any devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a few things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, and the offer ends very soon, in just about 3 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So looking at SPY, we saw this thing consolidating a bit with Jerome Powell's speech, then start to push up towards the end of his testimony, only to continue to rip towards the end of the day. And the market's continuing to rip in anticipation of CPI because the numbers and the expectations are quite good. So the question is, what's going to happen for tomorrow? What data is going to affect us for Tesla, SPY, and all the others? And what's on earth is going to affect us at least moving forward? So I'll break all of this down in just a few minutes. I just want to mention a few things about Jerome Powell and then the market. So just know that Jerome Powell reminded lawmakers of the Fed's dual mandate, which is still something that they are taking into consideration. The Fed is in a position where they're trying to, at least this is what they claim they're doing, trying to keep employment at bay. They're not trying to just, absolutely crash everything and destroy the economy. They're trying to keep that into consideration when raising interest rates. And now they're in a position where they're trying to determine when they're going to be cutting. They need more data to be able to do so. They're not ready to do it yet prematurely. And cutting too early is going to be bad. And also cutting too late is going to be really bad. So the Fed is in a very, very critical place. They're looking for that moment to start that cut. They are hinting to the possibility that it could be happening within towards the end of the year based off expectations and projections, but nothing is guaranteed quite yet. We'll just have to wait and see. But besides that, Jerome Powell didn't really say much today. He was just being asked lots of political questions. He obviously was trying to avoid politics and such, so it didn't really affect the markets too crazily. Now we have something else that's coming out, which is going to be even more significant. That's going to be CPI for tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, July 11th, 2024. Please note that at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 hour before the market opens. We have core CPI coming out for month over month. We're expecting this to be around 0.2%, and year over year, we're expecting to be around 3.4%, the same as before. So we're basically expecting core CPI to be the same. That's something very, very different from before. We want all these numbers to be the same as what we got last time for the month of May. And then for all items, CPI, all items, so that's for everything that includes food and energy, we're expecting 0.1% to be the increase month over month, a slight increase compared to before. And then for year over year, we're expecting a 3.1% inflation rate. That's actually a little bit lower than what we got during the previous report. So we're expecting a more tame June, all items CPI. We're expecting core to be the same as before. So it's not like we're expecting big drops. Now it's just kind of like close to what we saw previously. So we're going to have to watch and see how things end up looking. One thing worth noting is that when it comes to CPI, we're seeing a bit of a downtrend right over here in the data. You guys can see right here, CPI has been improving, at least on paper. I know the numbers are, very, very manipulated. There's a saying it's known as the CP lie, which is kind of funny. The reason why people say that is because the numbers could be calculated and weighted very differently, and it's very inaccurate to solely just look at things from one number. There's a lot of different sectors out there, and regardless of the way CPI is viewed, CPI does not mean that prices go down if it were to be decreasing like this. CPI just shows us the rate at which prices are increasing. So prices are not increasing as fast as they were before, but they're still once again on an uptrend, and that's what the Fed is trying to contain. So with this happening, there is some progress technically being made on paper. On paper just means that based off what's being reported, there is some progress. The Fed is in a more positive note because of this, but they need more really good data for them to become even more confident. So this is like the chart for all items relative to what we saw from before. There's been a big downtrend on core, and then also inflation's been quite sticky as well. If you look at the last couple of months, even though it's been downtrending a bit, we're still kind of stationary in this trend. So we'll have to watch and see how things end up moving. Just remember, guys, that inflation for all items tends to be very sticky, especially on the core side historically. So that's why the Fed is in a very critical place where they're keeping rates higher for longer. So we had a bit of a downtrend for the last 2 months in CPI as part of why the market's been fueling. Are we going to see this downtrend continue? If that were to be the case, that would be very, very bullish. If the numbers are close to expectations, that'll be good. If they're above expectations, it's not going to be too good. We could also look at some crude futures data. This is showing us that for the month of May, right? If you look at crude, it was basically at 78.59. That's actually the price of crude oil futures. And this actually went up just slightly. It's almost the same, basically. So for the month of June, that kind of suggests that for June, we're going to most likely get a very similar CPI as what we got previously, in my personal opinion. That is the most likely possibility. It did start to go up a little bit for the month of July, but we're not going to get the numbers until next month. So far, things are not looking too bad, at least for oil, and we'll have to see how things progress. With the market pumping more, the market's becoming a lot more greedy. We're seeing more buyers stepping in. Momentum remains extremely greedy as we're still well above our 125 daily moving average, and momentum is still very strong. On top of that, I just want to call out that volatility. It's also kind of neutral, stuck in the middle. We are seeing the VIX going up just a bit, but it's still below its 50 daily moving average. And the puts and call option positioning, this is the 5-day average of them. This is also going down because we're continuing to see shorts being closed, and the squeeze is continuing for the markets. So we're still seeing a big short squeeze perpetuating. There were so many people shorting the markets, shorts are getting squeezed, and then they're hedging by going long. We're seeing a lot of institutions doing that. That's what's primarily driving this market up higher, hedging and other factors like that. Also manipulation, of course. So what do I see for the charts? Honestly, guys, it's very simple. The majority of charts are actually more bullish looking, but it depends on CPI, of course. So I want to be very unbiased when kind of talking about the bullish and bearish cases, and then break down what's more probable. So for SPY, if we break past 562, we're going to go to a key Fibonacci area. This is going to be our extension area at 564. And if that breaks, we could go to even higher prices like 565 plus. But 564 is our potential target if we continue to break out higher. If we reject here, you want to see SPY lose basically 560, and we'll easily be coming back down to 558, then eventually 556. Those are going to be your two more bearish targets on SPY if we get a hot CPI. Looking at the data, like I said earlier, the data suggests that core CPI is going to be close to expectations, very similar to what we got from before. But for all item CPI, we're going to most likely get a decent one, very close to expectations for a slight decrease. So that's what I kind of presume is the most likely possibility, which favors upside. I can't promise that, guys. We want to be always open-minded because CPI is known for being manipulated. But the charts look very bullish approaching CPI, and they favor SPY going up to 564. That looks more favorable, more probable that the market wants to go higher. But we'll see if that's true based off CPI. Obviously, I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what the numbers are going to be, but I'm going to give you guys my best analysis because that's what the charts are kind of showing for now. If you look at Nvidia, the chart looks very bullish on the 4 hour. It looks like it's trying to fill this imbalance. So I do see 137.5 is a very strong possibility since we're technically above 135 right now. So this is favoring 137.5 as a stronger possibility. If we were to reject, I'd be looking at 133.8. If we lost, I would be dipping all the way down to 130. So this is favoring upside for a push towards 138. Nvidia is looking more bullish and favors upside as a much stronger possibility. So Nvidia looks more bullish. If anything, we will see if CPI helps or not, but that's what I'm seeing on the chart for the time being. Bitcoin has a double bottom leg structure, is trying to rebound right here, but we got to get back above 58,000. We got to hold above that to turn back to bullish. As of right now, it looks like it might dip a little bit towards the mid 57,000, it's like 57,250, and see if we get a bounce off that key fib retracement to continue higher. If we fail to do so, we're going to reject and start dipping down towards 56,000. If we hold this support, we're going to try to rebound. I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. We got a nice double bottom leg structure, and I think that there's a chance we could uptrend and continue to soar higher. So I think there's a good chance that we could see a slight bounce, at least on Bitcoin. But just to be safe, I want to see it get back above 58,000. If we fail to do so, we're going to be turning back down. So it all depends on the 58,000 area, our 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. I believe that CPI is going to have a big effect on this. So we'll see if CPI launches Bitcoin higher or not. That's going to be a big market moving event. So we'll see how things go. For ES, for those out there interested in trading futures, we're continuing to pump right now. It's pretty crazy right now. We're actually pushing very nicely. So I could be looking for about 57,000 plus as a potential target. If I'm sorry, not 57,000, 5,700. I keep thinking about Bitcoin, guys. I'm sorry about that. 5,700 is going to be our target if we end up getting, some very bullish looking numbers on CPI if they're below expectations. And if the numbers are not too good, I'll be looking at 56.69. If that fails us, we're going to be coming all the way back down towards the mid 5600s. So like 5650 or even below that's going to be coming. There's going to be a bit of a rug pull if we end up getting a hot CPI. So far, the volume is, I would say, pretty decent right now, and we're getting a very, very bullish looking trend. So this is favoring upside. It looks more favorable, at least from a technical standpoint. We will see if that ends up being the case or not. For Tesla, I'm seeing I wouldn't necessarily say it's weak, but I'm seeing some signs that it is fighting some tough resistance. So From a technical standpoint, look at this 265 area, see if we break through this because of CPI. If CPI helps us pump, we're going to see if Tesla could try to break 265. If we fail to do so, we're going to be rejecting, coming back down towards 258. But from a technical standpoint, we're looking a little bit weaker on Tesla. We kind of grabbed liquidity right here, so we triggered these stops here, and now it's coming back down, so it's starting to favor 260 or even below that. So I'm seeing a little bit of weakness. You guys could see this previous resistance becoming support around 258 to 260. It might come back down towards 260. We'll see if it bounces or not. But I'm seeing a little bit of weakness developing. Not necessarily weakness, but it's more like I said before, tough resistance that's developing on Tesla that's causing it to kind of slow down a little bit. So I don't really want to use the word weak to describe Tesla right now. It's not really weak. It's just that it's kind of slowing down a little bit. So in my personal opinion, we might see Tesla retrace a bit as a stronger possibility, but it's not a guarantee. It depends on CPI and such, so we'll just have to see how things go. The triple Q is looking very bullish. Why? Because we actually closed above 502. It's a big, bullish sign. We're also above 500 new all-time highs. This chart has no signs of a big rejection or a rug pull. It is favoring going all the way up to 505 or so, or even higher than that. If we are bearish, you want to see this basically lose 501. If that fails us, we're going to be coming back down towards 498 all the way down here. And for bullish, we're going to be looking for a break of 505. From a technical standpoint, this chart is favoring upside, so it looks more bullish in my personal opinion. For Aapl is looking more bullish, especially after some bullish iPhone news that came out. This is favoring 234 and then eventually 235 plus to be tested. If we were to lose 231.5, we'll be dipping all the way down to 230. But this chart is favoring upside from a technical standpoint. So, like I said before, guys, the large majority of charts besides Tesla that I just went over are favoring upside. Whether or not this happens depends on CPI. Even though it's more probable from a technical standpoint, probabilities don't guarantee anything because, like I said, it depends on the data. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what it's going to be, but that's what I wanted to just say. So now I'm just going to focus on the rest of the charts I typically go over. So just be very, very prepared for some interesting volatility tomorrow before the market opens. And without further ado, looking at Palantir, we are looking more bullish. This looks like it wants to be going all the way up to the previous level at this 29 to 29.5 area. That's where we had the previous resistance becoming support. So it's favoring 29 plus. If we turn bearish, you want to see it lose 27 to come back down, but this favors upside as a stronger possibility. For Supermicro, we're kind of consolidating between 880 and about 920. We've been stuck within this range for some time. To be bullish, you want to see it break past 920 to start pushing higher. Otherwise, we could start rejecting. But this is favoring consolidation for now. We have a nice looking kind of bullish structure right here. So it does favor kind of consolidation, maybe a break higher. That's looking a bit more probable, but it depends on CPI. So we will have to wait and see. If we kind of dip and bounce, Rivian pushed higher exactly as we predicted. I called out more upside. Now it's looking like it wants to fill this imbalance towards 17. So it looks like it wants to go all the way up to 17. But if we end up losing 15.4, we're going to be dipping back down towards 14.32. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. But this chart, in my personal opinion, is favoring upside for 17 plus. That's looking more probable. We'll see if CPI helps or not. For SoFi, we're kind of flat. I mean, I know we went up a little bit. We are undervalued, and I think that there is a good buying opportunity coming as we have a double bottom like structure. So I'm liking this double bottom. If we break structure right here at 6.67, I think we're easily going up towards 6.8 and then eventually 7. If we fail to break past 6.6, look for a rejection. This chart is favoring upside, like it wants to break past 6.6, so I favor that in my personal opinion. So that being said, the 4-hour on SoFi is looking more bullish as we have a bullish divergence, and it looks like it wants to be pushing a little bit higher from here. Just to be safe, we'll see if CPI helps or not to mention the big bank earnings coming out for Friday, but this chart is favoring upside a bit more in my opinion. For IWM Russell 2000, we shuffled only to see another attempt higher. I think tomorrow, the most likely possibility is we test 204. If that breaks, we're going back up towards like 207. If we end up losing 201.75, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 199. But this chart is favoring upside. You guys can see a nice accumulation structure. This is favoring a push for the 205, 207 area. So it looks more bullish to me. For AMD, we're attempting to break out a little bit higher right here, forming a nice double bottom like structure. I think that this is favoring upside. I think we're going to be retesting 185. If we reject here, we're going to be coming back down towards 175. If we push higher, we're going to be going all the way up towards 190. We're in the middle, but it is favoring upside a little bit more. We'll see if that ends up being the case with CPI coming out tomorrow. For ARM, we're looking a little bit more bullish. I think that we're going to be testing 188. If this breaks, we're going up towards 192.5. It looks more bullish to me so far. Coinbase is in the middle, not super bullish, not super bearish. We're just consolidating right now between 216 about 222. I think we're going to likely continue to consolidate before anything else. We have this imbalance to fill up towards 223. So we'll see if we get a bounce or not. I'm going to be very patient with this one. For Amazon, we're in a range right now. We have 200 as resistance and 197.5 as support. Look at the last 4 days, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Price action. I do favor upside. I think it might try to break out towards 202 if we get some decent data. But as of right now, we're just going to wait and see for confirmation. It's very indecisive, so I'm going to give it some time just to be safe. For Meta is very, very interesting. In terms of its momentum, we're actually seeing momentum slowing down for the chart. But if we end up breaking past 535, we're going to be looking for a push for higher levels like 540. So we will see if that ends up being the case or not. I favor that this is going to try to push a little bit higher towards at least 538 to 540. But just to be safe, we'll see what CPI brings us. That's going to be the biggest catalyst. For Microsoft, we look bullish. It looks like it's going to be retesting all-time highs, get very close to either 468 and 470. And if this breaks, we're going to go even higher. If we end up losing 462, look for 460, then 456. This chart's favoring upside, though. It looks like it wants to be going up towards at least 468. So we'll see if that ends up being the case, but that's looking more favorable in my personal opinion. Google's looking more bullish on the 4-hour time frame. I'm going to be looking for 194 as resistance. If this breaks, we're going to be pushing to even higher levels. But in my opinion, I think that because this is looking more bullish, I favor a move to the upside. So I think that's a lot more favorable and more probable. For a GameStop, notice that GameStop is kind of trading sideways within this range. We have a nice double bottom leg structure. So we could be looking for a push all the way up towards 26.5. And if we end up losing 24.6, we'll be dipping back down towards 23.3. There's a good chance this tries to go a little bit higher and tries to push a little bit from here. If we could try to hold above 25, that is, we will see what CPI brings us. I'm seeing some life on GameStop at the double bottom. For AMC, this is dipping a little bit towards 5.08. I think it's going to be dipping a little bit more. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping harder. If we hold this, we could try to rebound. So I think the best thing to do is just be very, very patient, at least nonetheless. For DJT, on a bit of a downward trend right over here, we have this big red bar. I think there's a good chance that we could come down to fill this gap. We might be testing the 27.5 area and maybe bounce after that. So I'm seeing some weakness on the chart. Depending on CPI, if we were to break 31, we're going to be going back up to 33. But now we're testing our 20 EMA as resistance. So this is favoring a move to 27. And then we'll see if we bounce after that. The VIX is trying to climb a bit, but it doesn't guarantee anything. We're just kind of flat. It's not really affecting the market much. We'll see if the VIX gets a rejection. We're still well below our 4-hour 200 EMA, which is currently at 13.16. We haven't broken it yet, so I don't see the reason to turn too bullish or bearish based off this. It's not really doing much. I would rather just watch, ES and, other indices just to be safe and wait for data. The 10-year is just completely flat even after Jerome Powell's speech, so it's not really affecting the markets either. Still have this cap to fill below. And finally, the dollar index is still kind of flat. We're dipping a little bit, which is favoring upside for the markets. Remember, I called this out yesterday, how it might kind of pop and then drop. That's exactly what's happening. And then the structure of this is actually looking more bearish. If you guys look at this, we have a very distributive looking structure. So this is once again suggesting that there's more downside for the dollar, which is implying there's more potential upside for the overall stock market. So technically speaking, the majority of stocks are bullish, besides some exceptions such as like Coinbase and Tesla. Tesla's just had tough resistance after it pumped so much already, so it's completely normal for it to kind of slow down a bit. But other stocks out there are still very, very bullish. We're still looking very bullish in the markets, so we'll see how things go. Remember, guys, 1 hour before the market opens, we have CPI data coming out. I'm going to give you guys an update once this comes out, and we'll see if this leads to more upside or not. The charts are suggesting upside is more favorable, but the charts are not 100% sufficient. They're not going to give you everything you need to know. The biggest thing is just to wait for the data, and then we'll see if the charts align with that. Okay, so with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I think you guys are absolutely spectacular. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And I will see you guys very soon on the next video tomorrow before the market opens. Okay, so have a great evening, guys. Enjoy what life has to offer. Have a good night or even a good morning wherever you guys are around the world. And I will see you guys very soon tomorrow before the market opens. So until then, take care. I really appreciate you guys one more time, and peace out.